We're making a feature. Are we crazy? Yeah, probably. I guess the real question is are we ready? Are we ready to attempt something that is utterly insane and is going to be exhausting? Kinda. I mean, I think with a feature, you have to be ready in the sense that you are ready enough to want it and want it bad enough. And we've got to a stage now where we want to do this enough that we will actually get it done. Our previous film to this one was Tide of Ghosts, and that film is kind of a long short. It's just under 30 minutes long. It took us essentially 7 days to film, but it was spread out over the course of a year because of my availability. I think the only real difference between making a short and making a feature is that everything just takes 5 times longer. Aside from that, I don't think there's actually too much difference so far. I mean, when it comes around to everything else, like the production and the editing, I'll let you know if that changes. But as of right now, it just seems like everything just takes 5 times longer than it did to make a short. So this is our, as you can probably work out, this is our first feature, which is terrifying because it's such a massive undertaking to try and do, and beyond that, do right and do well. Now, as of right now, I am completely independent. I'm a completely independent filmmaker that doesn't have any kind of external company support. We're just going out and we're making this thing and we're trying to make it as best as we can, and potentially look to eventually get distribution. So there's so much to it. It's its own market. I've only tried to distribute short films and approach the short film market in ways that I know, and it's so different from features. You can, at least they say, you can market features and sell features a lot easier than you would be able to short films. There's a lot less buying platforms for short films than there are for features that people can just buy as a single package. Usually with short films, you have to compile them into loads of short films together into one sellable DVD, then you only get like a cut of said DVD, and that's only if there is a company out there that is doing that, and I can't think of any that are, at least as a physical form. So yeah, it's its own medium in a way. Even though it's still film, the way that you market and distribute the work is its own thing completely. But I feel like it's something that needs to be done because it's something that I've wanted to do for so long, and the team that I work with has been wanting to make something more than just these little short films that we put together here and there. That we want to have something which we can hand a DVD over somewhere and say, we made this, we did the thing, we did the feature, and just do something with it and just have it. I think is just an accomplishment for everybody in itself. So yeah, the team and myself feel like we're ready. So we're gonna give it a go. Who knows how it will turn out, but we're gonna try. And to me, at this stage, giving it a go and failing is much better than never trying it at all. I feel like we need to just try and make it. And I feel like the longer I wait before I do that at this stage, it's just going to get more difficult if you don't start it now, if you don't get on the feature bus and learn how to do it when you're young. I feel like you're going to get kind of fall behind on the curve. I mean, and there's loads of people who start making features when they're older, and that works for them. But I feel like I need to I've got to just drive and do it, because I've got so many other things sort of going on at the same time. So, what am I doing towards the feature? What am I doing? So much. Basically, I've been kind of pressured to write this feature from myself and from colleagues and friends and family. They always kind of go, so when are you going to make a feature? And that's always the kind of push I keep having, and I've got to I've had to try and basically find my style and find the kind of story and kind of genre that I would want to tell and make, and one that I would be happy to invest a lot of time in. And I think that is actually probably one of the hardest things you can do when it comes around to wanting to start making a feature. Yet finding that subject or the characters or the moral story that you want to tell that in you is enough to go and make something which lasts 2 hours, maybe just under, and spend gosh knows how long on it, whether it's, a couple of years. It's a crazy undertaking, and you have to find something that you're passionate enough about that you will carry it through. So having to find that and find my style that I would be happy to do for such a long period of time has actually been one of the biggest challenges I've faced when it's just come to even approaching the feature. So yeah, I mean, I feel like over all the previous short films I've done, there's a style that I've developed where I am very kind of sensitive about topics that I make films about, and the topics themselves are quite sensitive topics in the sense that therefore often designed for people who struggle with internal conflict and almost mental difficulties in life, stuff that isn't necessarily physical barriers or cultural barriers. That isn't my style. Other people tell those stories, but for me, the stories that I want to tell are the ones that happen inside your own mind. So having to write a feature that feels like it does that, but also is captivating enough to hold an audience through 1 to 2 hours. It's a massive challenge to work out what that story is, and that's been huge. Trying to find the balance of that. So I've had to do a lot of research, not just for my own style and the way that I make stuff, but also research into making features, because there's a lot to it. Like I said, it's not too different from making a short, but how you structure your story to fit a longer medium is something that you've got to be even more attentive about than with short films, because a lot of people are very critical about the way that you lay out your story, if it is in particular for mainstream features. Very critical. So you've got to bear that in mind and think, right, does this fit the formula enough for it to be acceptable in mainstream cinema? Now, the reason why you don't have to consider that when making a feature, but the reason why I am considering it is because I want to make a film that can be publicly distributed. That is like the goal. That is the aim. And if you want to do that, there's loads of things that you have to read up on to do with sort of censorship. What can you put into your films? What kind of age rating is that going to be? The market in general. What is it that people want to see? And who is going to want to watch and buy and distribute your film? It's almost it is a very good idea to to just look at a load of production companies kind of films and potentially a distribution company kind of films and see what kind of content they distribute and think, okay, well, I could start writing a film for this particular company, and that is the best way to write a film, is you already have your marketing plan ready whilst, well, you're working on your marketing plan whilst writing your feature. And it's something which I've been trying to do as best I can. I feel like I need to do that a little more before I do my third draft. Just try and reach out to a few more distribution companies and see whether they'd be interested in distributing us or what kind of things they'd look for in our film. Just get a better idea, because since it's our first time, I feel like I may as well just ask and just test the water, see what people think. It's always a danger that people might steal the idea, but I think if we're so close to then going and making it and just giving like a synopsis, it should be okay. Should be, touch wood. But it's something you should really do, especially if it's your first time. I feel like you need to just ask and see who would be interested in distribution if it's something you're aiming to do, and what factors you might need to include that you hadn't thought of including before, or taking out, or things like that. So much research goes into that, and it's whether you can even sell your film is a huge question. But you just try and set it up in a way that is ready enough, or as ready as you can make it for people to take and just distribute. You never know if it will or won't, but at least you give it the best chance for it to be distributed, I suppose. So that's what we're doing right now, is trying to find the best things that we can do to get it sold. So I'm writing, as I mentioned. I'm in the writing process. You start off with the premise, then the characters, then you did the treatment. So I did like a 10-page treatment kind of style, which I then made into like a storybook kind of file that I could then send to people who are interested in being a part of the film, or actors, to give them a good idea of the tone, along with like illustrations to help them visualize some of the aesthetic I'm going for. That treatment, I think, is actually the most important part when it comes to the pre-production phase, because I find that has been the most useful way of communicating with other crew members or cast members, or just people who are generally interested. I found that's the best way to give them a solid idea of your idea. Try and transfer your creation to someone else's brain. I think the treatment is by far the most useful way of doing that, without a doubt. And so if you are writing a feature, before you get into writing your first draft, make a treatment. Now, as I've mentioned in a previous video, I love developing my ideas in notebooks. So, for example, so I started with this one. This one is completely full. It's got so many ideas and changes and alterations and character development. It's got pretty much everything in it that helps you as a director and a writer start to develop everything, like every kind of style. Like I've got down to cinematography, and the ending's changed about 5 times, and the middle's changed about 10 times, the beginning's changed about 9 times. But this helps you structure your thought, and I think without having a physical thing that you can go back to, and when you're sort of searching to change your ideas, where you can physically turn back and then see a previous version, I think is so useful in the writing process. I'm actually onto my technically 3rd book now, so this is the one I'm in now, and I'm developing a lot of the script changes in here, and so I'm using this as my kind of preliminary draft 2 script, and I use it for some of the sort of artwork, illustrations, and just forming some of the pictures. But I feel like I've had a book for draft 1, and now we're starting to work on draft 2. I've now got this book for draft 2, where I write in all the changes I want to make and develop those characters further and the themes further. And this one I've used for a writing activity that my co-writer and I did. So my co-writer, John Black, we co-wrote Tide of Ghosts together, and we've worked out a really nice system where I'm very good at making a film that is quite clinical, in the sense that I design a film that feels poetic. So I work on the poetic side of the cinematic craftsmanship. I think I'm very good at that side of writing and developing a film. And my co-writer, John Black, is an extraordinary writer of dialogue. He makes it feel so natural and humorous, and he brings so much life to the characters. So we have this method where I would write the basis of the script and the outline of the story that is very thorough, and then John takes it and then he just fills it with this really rich, vibrant dialogue, and then he sends it back to me, and I just sort of just clean it up a bit, take out a few things just to make sure it still stays core to the message, and then we have a finished script. And we like to think of it like a cake, where I bake a really decent sponge. He comes along with all the decorations, he pours it all on there, and at the very end, he then passes it back to me, and I just pick off a couple of colours, and then we have our beautiful, delicious, but without his decorating, would be a very bland cake. So that's the way that we like to look at it with our writing styles, and we're doing it with this one. John's currently doing his process as we speak, and then he's going to pass it back over to me to do the final look over, and they're going to have a finished script. It's close, it's almost there, and I'm really excited about the idea. So with this sort of activity that we did was I wrote out every scene in sort of bullet points and the things that must be included in 30 different pages. We had 30 scenes in total. We laid it all out for us to see. We had a look at the order. We rejigged a couple of things, and it gave me a really good basis from what needs to be included in each scene, and where we want to go with each part. Aside from the writing, I have been basically getting a team together of crew and cast. Now, there was a couple of roles in there which I wrote the roles for particular actors, and some I contacted before, some I contacted afterwards, and hoped that they'd say yes. So far, we've had a pretty good run in getting who we'd like for each role, and it's been really awesome of them to be so on board with it. We've been really lucky with that, to have such awesome people involved, and in terms of getting crew, getting the team, again, we've had really awesome interest. Get in touch, and yeah, we've got a nice team shaping up, and just got to make sure that people can make the days that each other can. That's always the trickiest part. Luckily, I've got at the moment 4 producers to try and help out with that, and they can hopefully try and get the dates together that we need, and start contacting people for their availabilities. I know it's something that I can do. I've done it in the past, but I feel that my time can be more usefully used elsewhere with this project at the moment, to actually get more of the idea and focus on that more than anything else, and leave the admin work to somebody else. I think they would do a better job at it than if I'm trying to juggle everything. So luckily, and probably for the better off of the film, we've got a lot of producers on board who are going to hopefully find days that everyone who is needed on a set can make. But yeah, that's that side of stuff. The people management is its own job on its own. I've been location scouting and obviously holding auditions. Auditions are pretty much done. We've got everyone on board that we need. Hopefully they'll all be able to make the days. And locations, we think we've got those. So fingers crossed. We'll have nice weather. That's always the other thing. You can get everyone together on the right day, and the weather can just be rubbish. So, yeah, fingers crossed, we'll be okay. So I mentioned before that I spent a bit of time finding my own style. Now, there's also the other factors that often when you hire a cinematographer, it's so that they can look at your film and your treatment, and they can start to develop a cinematic style for your film that best tells your story through the lens. Now, with all my films so far, I am the director and cinematographer because I love that portion of filmmaking. I love being able to try and create visual clues to help subliminally tell a story other than the one which is happening right in front of our eyes, which will probably have undertales and undertones anyway. So you can use all the tools to tell as many stories as you want, really. The more tools you have, the more stories that you can tell. And so I've been basically trying to develop a cinematic style that tells the message that I want to put in my film. Now, I'm not going to be sharing what that message is in this video or podcast because I want it to stay hidden. I want people to work it out when they watch the film, so I'm not going to share that. But I feel like you need to develop the cinematic techniques to also tell that story as best you can, or tell that message as best you can. So we're trying to do that as well, and it's quite a fun challenge to try and create a message through cinematography and make it consistent and make it effective. These are all things that have their own variables, and it's something I really enjoy trying out. Now the question is, what is next? We're going to try and do rehearsals after we finish the second draft. That's the next thing. And obviously I'm going to be doing some rewrites when John gets his version back to me. I'm going to be trying to do some rewrites there and try and refine it even more. I probably would have changed a few ideas in my head since then as well. Got to try and manage the availabilities, but hopefully the producers will do that. I need to work on props and costumes. So we've got a costume designer who's on board, who's hopefully gonna pull some costumes together that help also tell the stories of our characters and their backstories and just more about them as people. Yeah, we've got a load of props to make, not as many as some short films I've done in the past, so I've made sure to write this so that it's very doable on a low budget, whether it's the number of characters, the props we need, the locations we might need. I've written everything so that it allows the story to be completed on a low budget. And I think that's important to do also when you are sort of starting out your writing. I still got to then do the storyboard, which with all my films, I always do a very in-depth storyboard because of the cinematic storytelling that I like to do. So I need to make a storyboard for this one once we've got the second script all together. Then we've got the shoot, and we're going to try and get that done between late July and mid-September. I hope it happens. Don't know for sure, but, we'll play it by ear. We'll see how it goes. We'll aim for it. And if not, I'm hoping to have a little bit more availability next year to get anything that we might have missed. So that's the dream, between late July and mid-September. But try and have it all shot by then. We'll see. Then we're on to editing. And we'll do a couple of versions, I'm sure. We'll do a couple of screenings of those versions and get more reactions about things. And then we're going to try and distribute. We want to try and distribute it like a proper feature film. Now, whether we do that through large film festivals like Cannes, that would be nice. I would really like to do that. It's just finding a way of getting it in. I need to just talk to people who have got films in cans before. I mean, I know a few, but when it's like your first time doing it, it's sort of who's going to have the confidence in your work to bring it to cans. It's difficult. It's so difficult, and it's like they say, it's who you know, not what you know. To an extent, like you need to know what you're doing to a point, but it is very important to know the right people. So that's going to be the thing. We want to get it seen, and that's the real dream, and it's it's gonna be its own learning process, and it's something that I want to learn to do. I want to learn how to distribute a feature. I want to be someone that can be like, right, okay, we've done it, we've made a feature, now let's distribute it the proper way, and then go about it the proper way. So there's a lot to do. Aside from that, I'll probably cry a bit, probably do some behind the scenes. I hope to do lots of behind the scenes in this one and bring it to you guys to sort of share this perspective, because I don't think there's much sort of quite personal sharing when it comes to making features. You don't see it very much, especially on YouTube. So I'm going to try and take you guys through as much of the processes as I can, hence this video. They can sort of show you what it's like for a true indie filmmaker to make an actual feature, and for it to be like somewhat useful, and hopefully the feature that we make will be good, and you will watch it and you will like it and you will want to share it, because we want to make something that people can just utterly enjoy watching, as if it were a mainstream film but made by indie filmmakers. That's like the main goal. We want to make a film that feels mainstream but still a little bit art house. You can't take that out of me, but it's truly made by indie filmmakers. I want people to look at it and just fit it into their like DVD catalog. I want it to be like that. So that's the dream. But it's a massive undertaking, and I hope today's video hasn't scared you off of maybe making your own feature one day. In fact, it's very doable, and that's the thing. Like, it is so doable. I just want to get across that this is what we're doing, and it's not easy. I know it's not easy from first hand, and I'm sure I'll be reminded of that every day from now on until it's done, and probably filled with lots of temporary regrets. But I think overall, I'll look back and go, but we tried, or even we did it, and that to me is like, I can't ask for any more from that, really. So yeah, I hope this has been somewhat interesting and or inspirational, and will continue to be as we go through more of what we're trying, and a bit more of the processes that we are doing. And I'll try and film more. I'll try and film more behind the scenes as much as I can, whether it's auditions, not auditions, whether it's rehearsals or more writing processes, chats with John. Just feel like it might be interesting without giving away sort of spoilers, because I don't want to do that. But definitely some on-set stuff for sure. It'd be quite nice. So, if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask, or you'd like me to go over in one of these kind of Q&A sessions, leave them in the comments below, or you can send me a message on Instagram at SebCoxFilms. That is my business account, and I will be I can sort of put them in these videos for you if you're interested in that, in any questions about any of our short films that you have previously seen on our YouTube channel. So thanks again. See you next time.